if you're watching this video as a recorded section, or if you're on the stream right now, you probably clicked on this because you are at a workplace where you want to enhance the impact, where you want to shine out, or you're looking to join a workplace in the near future where you want to create an impact. And that is exactly what we'll focus on. Building a brand at your workplace. Now, what is a brand? I would say a brand is a predisposition that people have about you, even before you enter the room, even before you open your mouth, before you start working, start doing. What are people already thinking about you is your brand. And the reason it is so important to have a brand is because if you have a great brand, you don't start from zero in your interactions. Your brand gives you a head start. If you make a little mistake, people know it's a one-time thing because your brand has proven that you're somebody who sticks to their guns. And so in the next 30 minutes or so that we'll be on, we'll discuss how to build your personal brand at the workplace. And I have about 13 rules for this, which I've also explained in the book with Prakhar, Don't Shut Up. And I will also expand on them here right now. The first rule for building your personal brand at the workplace, I call it the push the chair back in rule. Push the chair back in rule. Now it sounds funny. You're talking about building a personal brand at the workplace and आप बोल रहे हो कि push the chair back in. What does that even mean? How will that help me build my personal brand? The way that will help you build your personal brand is what this rule means in its larger sense is you put things as you found them. When I was working at a consulting home, I noticed when people left the conference room, they left the chair all the way behind. They left the table dirty. They left their coffee mugs and trash and scrap paper around. They left the board dirty. That wasn't adding to their personal brand. When you push the chair back in and people around you see you do that, they understand that you are somebody who does things not just for recognition, not because you're getting something out of them, but because they're supposed to be done. And how many people in the world are doing something not because they're getting anything out of it, but only because those things are supposed to be done. And that is the difficult part about building a personal brand, because building a personal brand is an investment. Now, the difference between investment and spending is when you spend something, you find immediate result. आपने पैसे दिए, आपने आईफोन खरीदा, इमीडिएटली आपके हाथ में आईफोन आ गया. आपने पैसे दिए, आपने गाड़ी खरीदी, आपने पैसे दिए, आपने एक अच्छे रेस्टोरेंट में चले गए. That's spending, because you can immediately see the result. You can immediately feel the dopamine rush. You immediately get a reward. The problem with investment is कि आप उस चीज को कर देते हो and reward कभी future में आता है, और हो सकता है नहीं भी आए. So when you are building your personal brand, you might notice that all these people around you are not doing things that you are doing. All these people around you are not reciprocating to what you're doing. मतलब आप तो कर रहे हो लेकिन आपके लिए कोई वो चीज नहीं कर रहा है. जब आप कॉन्फ्रेंस रूम में जा रहे हो तो आपको चेयर पीछे ही मिलती है, जब आपको बोर्ड गंदा ही मिलता है. तो why should I be the one who's pushing the chair back in and cleaning the board before I leave the conference room? It's because you are building a personal brand. A personal brand is an investment. जो आप आज करोगे उसका रिटर्न आपको आज नहीं मिलेगा, तो वो बहुत frustrating process होगा. But when you keep doing it, you will realize later on what that truly means and how that truly serves you. उसका एक बार इतना बड़ा benefit आपको आ जाएगा कि आपको realize होगा that these weeks and months of effort are worth it. And by the way, I'm reading the comments that are there. Jinesh, happy to see you here. Explorer, Ananya, I'm good. Thank you for asking. Hello, Yuvraj. Thank you for being here. And as I'm sharing this, if you have any questions, you let me know. and I will address them. But what I'm doing right now is addressing the 13 rules that you need to follow to build your personal brand at the workplace. The first was push the chair back in rule. The second is never approach from behind rule. What is this weird rule? Never approach from behind. I still remember when I was working at in the corporate, I used to have this cubicle, right? And so I used to push my chair all the way inside. Now I'm in the middle of this very important task. I'm doing something, and suddenly around 4:30 p.m. this person would always come from behind me, suddenly put both of his hands on my shoulder and go, और भाई क्या चल रहा है, क्या काम कर रहा है आज तो बहुत बिजी, आज तो बात ही नहीं की सुबह से, क्या चल रहा है? And I used to be so wired in sometimes that I used to get startled, like, who is this person? And he probably had the best of intentions of approaching me, and what is part of a healthy workplace is people talk to each other outside of a work setting. People casually interact with each other. But for that little moment where he approached me from behind, जो मेरा एक reptilian response उस चीज को होता था कि अबे कौन आ गया, मुझे गुस्सा आ जाती थी उस पे. वो इंसान बुरा नहीं था, वो काम भी शायद बुरा नहीं कर रहा था, but because he approached me from behind, I suddenly felt as if my space was being violated. It could be I'm watching a video, I'm doing something personal, I'm texting somebody, and I don't want somebody to see it. But when somebody approaches from behind, my evolved response to that input is that of defense. आप अकेले रात में सड़क पे चल रहे हो, कोई आपके पीछे आ रहा है, how will you feel? You will not probably feel encouraged, you'll probably feel defensive, you'll probably feel threatened. तो वही चीज वर्कप्लेस में भी हो रही है. Never ever approach people from behind. आप आगे से आइए and give people a heads up before you approach them. So if somebody is working on a desk and I have to approach them, I typically come from an angle where they can see me approaching them. And I would call out to them probably as I'm approaching them, hey, what's going on? Something on those lines, so that it gives them time to process the fact that I'm approaching them, and they don't feel as if I am violating their space. Aim, Neet, Ankit is asking what's happening here. Ankit, we are discussing the 13 rules that you can follow to build your personal brand. We're done with 2 rules, and now that you're joining us, we are beginning the third one. The third rule is, हो सकता है जब आप साथ में काम कर रहे हो किसी का काम आता है ना, आपको उस काम पे कमेंट करनी है या उस काम को आगे बढ़ाना है. जब आप बहुत बिजी हो गए, आप none of you are bad people, and I believe nobody is a bad person in a good circumstance. People behave at their worst when they are in a circumstance that is not suitable. जब सब बढ़िया चल रहा है तब तो आप अच्छे से बिहेव करोगे ना लोगों के साथ. It is when you're stressed that you might back answer to your mother. It's when you're stressed, when you're afraid, when you're facing a negative emotion that you might not talk to your friends in the most ideal way. And आप अपने आप को justify कैसे करते हो कि यार मैं तो उस समय गुस्से में था. ठीक है, अरे जब आप खुश हो गए तब आप क्यों किसी के साथ misbehave करोगे? The test of your personality, of your empathy is in the time when you're at your lowest, when you're beaten. और बहुत बार क्या होता है, फिर आप जब आपके कलीग ने सपोज आपको कोई चीज़ प्रेजेंट की और आपको वो चीज़ अच्छी नहीं लग रही है, तो 2 तरीके से आप ये चीज़ को आगे बढ़ा सकते हो. बहुत तरीके हैं, बट यहाँ पे मैं 2 ब्रॉड तरीके डिस्कस करना चाहता हूँ. एक तरीका जो काफ़ी लोग करते हैं इज दैट दे क्रिटिसाइज द पर्सन. यार अमित तू हमेशा क्या ये इसी टाइप का काम करता है यार, मैं तेरे को पहले ही बोला ये काम मत किया कर यार. यू आर क्रिटिसाइजिंग द पर्सन. अमित तू ये हर काम इतना अनटाइडली क्यों करता है, क्या प्रॉब्लम क्या है भाई तेरी? अमित तू हमेशा लेट होता है यार सबमिशंस में. यू आर अटैकिंग अमित एज अ पर्सन. दैट इज नॉट बिल्डिंग अ ग्रेट रिलेशनशिप. और अमित क्या हो जाएगा ना, वो अपनी गलती मानेगा भी नहीं. वो अपनी गलती मानेगा नहीं क्योंकि अमित को ऐसा लग रहा है कि आप उसके एनिमी हो. यू आर अगेंस्ट हिम. इट इज योर प्रॉब्लम. Never criticize the person if you have to criticize the task. Rule number 3, never criticize the person if you have to criticize the task. अगर आपने रिपोर्ट आई है, सिर्फ अंकित से, अंकित I may have a few differences of opinion with this report, Would you like to debate about that? एक बार आपने रिपोर्ट की बात की, आपने बोला मैं इस रिपोर्ट को, इस टास्क को क्रिटिक करना चाहता हूँ, इस टास्क को डिस्कस या डिबेट करना चाहता हूँ, तो अमित उतना डिफेंसिव नहीं होगा, बिकॉज नाउ यू आर नॉट अटैकिंग हिम एज अ पर्सन, यू आर लुकिंग एट द टास्क दैट इज गोइंग ऑन. So never criticize the person if you have to criticize the task. How are you processing this? Let me just take a 15-second pause. See, what are your questions, comments, thoughts, reflections on our work so far? Of the 13 rules, we're done with 3. First is pull the chair back in rule. Second is never approach from behind the desk rule. And third is never criticize the person rule. Heading towards the fourth rule. The fourth rule is, I remember एक बार हम लोग एक client meeting में जा रहे थे, lunch के बाद की बात है. It's me, my manager and my colleague. And me and my colleague were both technically under our manager. तो हम जा रहे थे और लिफ्ट में हम लोग एक साथ थे, क्लाइंट की ऑफिस की तरफ जा रहे थे, अपनी ऑफिस की लिफ्ट से नीचे उतर रहे थे. एकदम से मेरे मैनेजर ने मेरे कलीग के शूज़ को देखा और एकदम से बोला, मैं नाम चेंज कर रहा हूँ, और आदित्य फुटबॉल खेल के आए हो क्या आज? पहले मुझे समझा नहीं क्यों बोल रहे हैं. तो मैंने आदित्य के शूज़ की तरफ देखा तो मुझे समझ में आया, दो शूज़ वर मडी, द शूज़ वर बैड. ही डिडंट लुक प्रेजेंटेबल टू द क्लाइंट. नाउ आई वाज सरप्राइज्ड बिकॉज that is not who Aditya was. Aditya had been in the firm for about 2.5 months at that point, and he had joined in September, November या December के start की बात है. I remember Aditya's first day. When Aditya came to the office first day, he was wearing this white shirt, absolutely crisp. He was wearing this navy blue pant, and he was wearing these black formal shoes, absolutely crisp. I looked at this person, I was like, okay, he was from XLRI, etc. I was like, wow, this is one person. तो मेरे दिमाग में आया कि ऐसा 2.5 महीने में 2.5 months में क्या हो गया जो Ankit, and by the way, who was extremely good at his job. Why was he dressed like that on day one, and why is he dressed like this after 2.5 months? I realized that he had started taking this role for granted. पहले दिन जब वो आया, he had to impress everybody. He had to show everybody that I am good. And I'm not saying he's bad in doing that. All of us have the need when we go into a new place. We want people to like us. We want people to see us. We want people to appreciate, respect us. Absolutely. But my challenge to you is that you keep up that attitude every single day. And it's not easy. And that's what building a personal brand is about. Building a personal brand is about having a little more effort than everybody else every single day. Having a little more effort than everybody else every single day. वो जूते पॉलिश करने में बहुत effort नहीं लगता. He used to wear the shirts almost folded up to his elbow every morning. Wearing the full shirt, वो discomfort में बहुत difference नहीं होता. लेकिन क्या आप वो एक्स्ट्रा एफर्ट लेने के लिए तैयार हैं टू बिल्ड योर पर्सनल ब्रांड? व्हेन यू आर ड्रेस्ड वेल, पीपल ट्रीट यू विद रिस्पेक्ट. And I have seen this everywhere, not just in offices, not just with clients, but as part of my work, at least before COVID, and it is slowly starting back right now. अभी तो मेरे बहुत सारे sessions when I'm doing executive coaching, most of it is online, but that was not the case before COVID. And before COVID, I had to travel a lot. And when I used to travel for some of these sessions, there were moments when I was wearing a t-shirt like this, which is okay. And there were other moments where I had to do exactly, let's say I had to fly in, do a session and come back. So I used to be better dressed. I used to wear a sports jacket, a coat, a formal shirt, etc. And the way I used to be treated by the security, by the flight's air personnel, by the cab driver, the way everybody treated me was different. And it's not just happened with me once that I think, oh, it might be different. Every single time that I'm better dressed, people treat me differently. Now it takes a little bit of effort, but here is my challenge to you. Always dress like it's day one. And you might say, sir, but it's easy for you to say dress, but I know that buying some of this stuff is very expensive. मुदित ये brands तो बहुत महंगी आती हैं, आप क्या बात कर रहे हो कि dress well. And I completely am cognizant of what I'm sharing with you, and I know that it might be painful to invest in a slightly expensive shirt, slightly expensive trouser, slightly expensive belt. What I have also understood in the past is whenever I have slagged on these things, I thought, let me buy a shirt that is not as expensive, that is not branded, let me buy trousers. In most cases, वो चीजें जल्दी खराब होने लग गई हैं. तो in the long run, it actually is almost cheaper to buy something from a good brand. I'm not saying great. I'm not saying go buy Gucci or stuff. I'm saying जो normal formal brands भी जाती है, आपने Peter England ले लिया, आपने Arrow ले लिया, and there are, I'm not endorsing any one particular brand. There are a bunch of brands, but उनका जो एक तरीके की quality होती है, that helps it last longer. Same thing with belt and shoes. Now, belt and shoes are typically expensive. You're buying a good belt, a branded one is probably around 2,000 or 3,000 rupees. You're buying good shoes, it is probably around 4,000 or 5,000, 6,000 rupees. But those shoes have lasted me for almost half a decade or more, even during regular wear. Whereas whenever I have bought shoes which are not as expensive, which are not branded, those shoes have worn out much earlier. So I understand I might probably, at the risk of sounding that I am assuming you to be privileged, I know that what I'm asking you to do when I'm asking you to buy slightly expensive clothes is an investment. The fifth is these are the 4 rules. The fifth is when you are in a meeting or when you're going around for a meeting, even if it is not one of those big and important meetings or presentations, always carry a pen in your hand. Always carry a pen in your hand. When I work with top CEOs who are the highest performing CEOs that I've worked with, I always notice that even in little meetings, they have a little notepad and a little pen, and as soon as they find something interesting, they write it down. It is a fool's paradise to believe I will remember this or this is not important, but the people who are operating at the very top understand that anything valuable can come in any time, and in all the noise that's happening around you, it is very easy to forget a good idea or a good thought or an important feedback that suddenly came to you. So that's the number one thing why you should carry a pen and notebook, because you never know what might come up that's noteworthy. But the second reason why I included in building your personal brand at the workplace is because when you do carry a pen and a notebook, people around you see you as somebody who's curious and who's constantly willing to learn, and somebody who's serious about what they're doing. Just holding a pen and a notebook and scribbling notes makes you come across as somebody who is genuinely interested in what is being discussed and what is being done. That was the 5th rule. Always hold a pen rule. I'm reading Explora's comment here. Correct. हमारी technical communication ma'am ने भी advice दी थी presentation के time, meeting and all. I think you're referring to the previous thing. Dress like it's day one. Thanks Explora for that comment. 6th is called the thank you rule. What is the thank you rule? The thank you rule says that you can never say too many thank yous. Even when people do absolutely little things for you, आप उनको thank you बोलिए. They respond to an email, they send you an update, they tell you they will be late but they tell you in advance. Be gracious in thanking people. People don't thank people enough. अरे इसके लिए क्या thank you बोलना है, तो उसका काम है. जब आप बोलते हो किसी को thank you, that person, आप बहुत बड़ा उसके लिए कुछ नहीं करो, but that person in the moment feels recognized. The person in the moment feels recognized. आप उसके लिए बहुत बड़ा तो कुछ नहीं कर सकते, शायद कर भी सकते हो, but रेगुलरली कुछ बड़ा नहीं कर सकते किसी के लिए, बट जस्ट द फैक्ट ऑफ सेइंग थैंक यू टू समबडी makes the person feels recognized. So don't be stingy about कि and don't be self-centered in thinking about अगर मैं इतना थैंक यू बोलूँगा तो लोग सोचेंगे कि या तो हर बात पे थैंक यू बोलता है. कोई ऐसा नहीं सोच रहा, आप ही ऐसा सोच रहे हो. Somebody holds the door for you, say thank you. Security guard checks you while you go in, say thank you. There's a person operating the lift, say thank you. There's a person at the reception who guides you, say thank you. These little interactions, these what we call weak connections, and this whole web of weak connections creates your personal brand, is why people think twice before speaking ill about you behind your back, because you've more often than not been kind to them. And what is the investment that it took? Just 2 words, saying thank you. Raja Radio Common, great to see you live. Raj, I think you are one of the students, right? And it's great. It's very nice to see you here. Yuvraj is asking, when is the right time to call a person after a cold text? When is the right time to call a person after cold text? It is contextual, and I don't think there is a completely right answer for this. A lot of times I see a person text and immediately calls just to say कि मैंने text भेजा है, and I don't completely even blame that person, Yuvraj, because a lot of times I send people email, and until I don't call them, they don't check that email or check that text. So I see what you're saying. My thought is that any reasonable follow-up, unless it's urgent, should be done after 24 hours. So if you've dropped somebody a cold text, especially because it's a cold text and it looks like you don't have a huge relationship with them, call 24 hours later. You don't even want to call too late, because otherwise they'll be like, what text are you talking about? So within 24 hours, or let me say exactly after 24. If you are texting them today afternoon, probably tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening is when you'll be able to, I think you should follow up with them. That's my personal view. So far we've discussed 6 rules, and now comes the 7th rule. There was a 10 a.m. meeting during the time I was doing my CA articleship, that's internship. There was a 10 a.m. meeting, and I reached the client office. So the meeting was me, the partner of my firm, which happens to be in any practice, in any firm, the top person is called the partner. So it was me and my boss's boss, that's the partner. So it was a 10 a.m. meeting. I reached at 9:58, and and my boss is already there, and he says, "Mudit, why are you late?" And I checked my watch, and it said 9:58. Sir, I said, "Sir, it's 9:58." And he's like, "Mudit, look at you as you laugh and you say this to me. You're panting. You're panting right now, catching your breath. You're new in this environment. You're not comfortable. And imagine like this, you will go into the meeting with the client. And the client is already comfortable, so he will have a head start on you. Being on time is being 15 minutes early. Being on time is being 15 minutes early." That's what he told me. He wasn't a very great boss in other aspects, by the way. But I do remember this advice, and it has served me well for 2 reasons. Number 1, being 15 minutes early genuinely helps me become accustomed to the surroundings. AC thanda hai ya nahi hai, I want to go pee, I'm panting because I have been running, I have been late, whatever it is. I'm sweating because it's been a warm day. I have time to go to the restroom and freshen myself up. All of those things happen, and when I go in, I'm at my best. And the second reason is also that if you plan to go 15 minutes in advance, you are almost never late. And it takes no talent to be punctual. It takes no talent to be punctual. And it just makes me sad that despite that, so many people are not. Just being punctual is a +1, a +2 in your personal brand. So always arrive before time. 7. The 7th rule. Rule number 8. When you are at the workplace, always assume you are being watched. When you are at the workplace, always assume that you're being watched. I was once, during my articleship, there was one of my colleagues who used to keep using WhatsApp all the time. So he used to use WhatsApp and he used to keep the phone aside. He used to do some work. Second minute, he used to pick up WhatsApp, reply to the text, keep the phone aside, keep doing the work. And I used to observe this person sometimes, and I felt like I'm the only one person observing him, because he used to like keep his phone downwards and he used to continue doing what he was doing anyway. And nobody very clearly ever seemed to look at, oh, this person keeps texting every other minute. A few months after I first observed this person do that, there was some discussion going on again with a different partner, a different boss in the same firm. And there was some humorous discussion going on, and it just happened that the boss said, yes, you will be able to do that when you find time from texting. And everybody burst out laughing. And when the boss made that joke and everybody burst out laughing, and that person obviously looked embarrassed, I realized that ऐसा नहीं है कोई उसको नहीं देख रहा था. Everybody knew that person was texting every single day, every other minute. So when you are at the workplace and you know your chair is like that, or when you're watching a YouTube video, or when you're texting or whatever you're doing, always assume you're being watched, because one time you will be right. So when you are at the office, what I really suggest is just like I'm sitting right now, in my seat here, I have logged this backrest. This is logged. So once this is logged and I am sitting all the way behind, automatically the posture of my body looks ready, looks prepared, looks like I'm down to business. If this is loose, then you will not realize at what time you start to go behind. And it could be I'm doing this, but I'm actually working, but somebody passing by would look at me and assume that this person seems to be chill. So lock your backrest, and whether you're walking, talking, eating, working, taking a call, always assume like you're being watched. Answering some thoughts in chat. Nikhil, don't make the stream private. Your wish is my command. Subhash, do you plan to write another book with Prakhar? Subhash, would you like me to write another book with Prakhar? Sir Tobias Eldridge, how did you happen to meet Prakhar? 1.5 years ago, Prakhar and I were both doing a college event where we both heard each other and had mutual appreciation for the work that we did in that college event, and we stayed in touch. Great. So that was rule number 8. Rule number 9. When I joined a consulting firm, there was this person, his name was Himesh. And I was new, and I actually found Himesh to be very knowledgeable. And whenever I had a question or I had a problem, I noticed Himesh was always, and I asked Himesh, he used to become very excited, he used to help me. So I used to look up to Himesh, right? Then one time my other colleagues, Himesh wasn't there, my other colleagues and I were having a discussion, and we found ourselves unable to answer a particular question, and we thought, okay, how about we hire an expert outside of the team to be able to give us a proper opinion on this matter, because we don't seem to know the answer. We were seriously discussing that when one of the team members suddenly suggested, or even better, let's go ask Himesh. He would definitely know the answer. And as soon as he said those words, everybody burst out laughing. And I was confused. Why is everybody laughing? I mean, if Himesh can answer the question, that's great, right? We won't have to hire an outside expert. You know that feeling when everybody around you is laughing and you don't know the joke? Well, that's exactly how I felt. But a few months later, and after many interactions with Himesh, I finally understood why those people were laughing on that statement. You see, whenever we were having lunch or whenever we were having a question and Himesh was part of the discussion, Himesh used to jump into the discussion with his opinions, with his expertise, even when the thing was clearly outside his expertise. Whether it's a sport going on TV, whether it is a news article that's being played on TV, whether it is a professional question, whether it is whatever discussion it is, Himesh always used to have an opinion. He wanted to sound smart and add something to every conversation and be a part of every conversation. And that is why the team nicknamed him the expert. Himesh is the expert. Ask Himesh. Now, I don't encourage gossiping about anyone, and I think my team was completely wrong in doing that. But let's talk about Himesh here. Himesh had a serious problem. Himesh had a serious problem with saying 3 words, and those 3 words are I don't know. Those 3 words are I don't know. Himesh had a serious problem saying those words. And a lot of us have a serious problem with accepting that we don't know something. Here's what I want you to think about. You saying I don't know might make you feel that people would think, oh, you're such a fool. This person doesn't know this. What are you talking about? But in my experience, in my opinion, when you say I don't know, people respect you. Why is that? Because you honestly admitted you didn't know something. So next time when you are sharing an opinion that is within your scope of expertise, people know that you're sharing it only because you probably know something. And that opinion, that statement will hold far more value than somebody who always says, okay, I know this, or I have an opinion about this. This is, I don't know. There's a question in chat. Have a quick question about the notepad and the pen pointers. Typing important points in note app or on the phone have the same impact. Love the session, by the way. We should more do these. Thank you. That's very encouraging, especially because this is a live stream and I do this work professionally and I never know how this is being perceived, but feedback like this helps. And I think that's a valid question. I don't certainly think there's anything like having a manual device in your hand to do it, but I understand that it might often be cumbersome to have a manual device, and you may have to send an email later, and then you have to do the double work of typing it out and sending it away. In that case, what I do is I take permission. Is it okay if I take notes on my device? And the person is like, yeah, sure. And then when I am taking notes on this device or on an iPad or whatever it is, they know that I am not texting, but I am taking notes. So just that little heads up, my friend, I've noticed helps before you take notes digitally. And mainly because the world is so distracted right now, as people would always assume you're texting somebody or you're not in the moment with them. But when you say that, it helps. And oftentimes when I do take notes digitally, I might often pause and ask. So what I understand here is you're saying, and I would refer my notes I said, is that we need to move ahead with this plan if you're able to sort out the east sector. Is that right? So they definitely know that I am taking notes. I hope that helped with your question. So those were 9 rules. The 10th rule of the 13 rules is religion, sex, and politics. Religion, sex, and politics. People have deep-rooted beliefs about these 3 areas, about their religion, about sex, and about politics. And if you engage in that conversation at the workplace, To you, it might feel like I'm logically convincing this person that this thing, based on all of these facts and opinions, is clearly not right. Why is this person not ready to understand? It's because sometimes people's beliefs about things are so strong that logic has absolutely no firepower in front of those beliefs. And when you do that, in their minds or in their notebooks, you become a person who is not like them, who doesn't agree with them, who is not with them. Now, I don't want you to be completely agreeable to what other people say just for the heck of it. But at the same time, I don't want you to pick up battles that are not worth fighting. आप अगर prove कर लोगे in a conversation at the workplace that your political party is better than that person's political party, what are you going to get out of it? What are you going to get out of it? एक तो वो चीज होगी नहीं. You will not be able to convince because, like I said, people's deeply rooted, seated beliefs. So don't fight battles that are not worth fighting for. Especially when I'm talking about sex, you should know that if you are cracking sexual, jokes with a sexual connotation at the workplace, and a lot of times colleagues become friends and you become very casual with them, and that's great. I think that's a sign of a healthy workplace. But you have to always remind yourself to stay away from jokes with a sexual connotation. Why is that? Because there might be a blurred line between cracking sexual jokes and crossing over to do something that, based on that, considering the organization's rules, is an unethical thing to do. तो उसके बीच में बहुत ही ब्लर्ड लाइन है और आपको कभी पता नहीं चलेगा कि आपने कब वो लाइन क्रॉस कर ली, सेक्सुअल जोक और सेक्सुअल मिसकॉन्डक्ट के बीच में. आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि आप वो चीज करना चाहोगे. आई एम नॉट सेइंग यू मीन टू डू इट. आई एम नॉट सेइंग यू विल डू इट कॉन्शियसली. आई एम नॉट सेइंग यू मीन ill for anybody. Maybe you will do it in the spirit of humor, but that same thing might not be received in the spirit of humor. And so my invitation here is to stay away from topics of politics, sex and religion at the workplace. Rule number 11. We always think when we know the answers, when we talk, when we contribute, we are appearing smart, and you probably do. But what is more important at the workplace, especially in the initial days and almost always, is that you listen more and talk less. Listen more and talk less. And those people who listen have a different level of respect when they finally speak, because people know you've been listening. And मैं आपको एक बात बता दूं, everybody likes to talk. Even introverts like to talk. Introverts just like to talk about topics and talk to people that they're interested in. Extroverts just have the bar lower and they can talk to more people and about more things. Introverts also want to talk. तो जब आप एक listener बन के आगे आते हो, जब आप लोगों की बात सुनते हो without interrupting them, what really happens is people feel a sort of a fresh breeze. There is this person who is actually listening to me, who's listening to my story, and who did not interrupt. कितने फ्रेंड्स ग्रुप में आपके साथ ऐसा हुआ होगा कि आप अपनी लाइफ का कोई बहुत अच्छा किस्सा शेयर कर रहे हो, कोई बहुत बढ़िया चीज़ बता रहे हो, आपने ये आपके साथ हुआ था. आप हमेशा जब ये चीज़ बोलते हो लोग एंजॉय करते हैं, बट जैसे ही आपने वो चीज़ बोली, यहाँ पे किसी ने एकदम से बोला हाँ मेरे साथ भी ऐसा ही कुछ हुआ था. तो मेरे साथ क्या हुआ था ना कि 2 साल पहले मैं इधर गया हुआ था नासिक घूमने, एंड नाउ दिस पर्सन हैज द लाइमलाइट. Has this happened with you? If this has happened with you, let me know in comments if that's happened with you. Is that somebody else somebody else was thinking about their story when you were sharing your story. And मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि दूसरे लोग ये चीज़ करते. कितनी बार आपने भी किसी के साथ ये चीज़ की होगी, आपने रियलाइज ही नहीं किया होगा, आपने मासूमियत में कर दी होगी. Listen more and talk less. That is the golden rule to build stronger relationships. Rule number 12, the rule to receive feedback. The rule to receive feedback. जब आपको एक feedback मिल रहा है, and I have written about this in both of my books, in Be Invincible and in Don't Shut Up. But मैं यहाँ पे आपको ये चीज़ बताता हूँ because I think it's so important. Feedback receive करने के 3 steps होते हैं. पहला step होता है listen, दूसरा step होता है filter, तीसरा स्टेप होता है एक्शन. What most people do, ये मैं समझाता हूँ मैंने क्या बोला. What most people do is as they are taking feedback, when somebody is sharing feedback, वो लोग डिफेंसिव होने लगते हैं. अरे लेकिन मैंने तो ऐसा किया ही नहीं. अरे एक्चुअली मुझे लगा वैसा ही होगा. ओह नो, that's not what I meant. What I actually meant was, see, when somebody is giving you feedback, एक तो मैक्सिमम लोग ना दुनिया में आपको फीडबैक देंगे नहीं ऑनेस्ट. या तो वो आपको इतना प्यार करते होंगे, जैसे कि मेरे जैसे मॉम हो गई, वो मुझे फीडबैक नहीं देंगे कि यार बेटा तुम्हारी टी शर्ट आज अच्छी नहीं लग रही है, बिकॉज फॉर हर आई एम द क्यूटेस्ट किड इन द होल वर्ल्ड डिस्पाइट नो मैटर व्हाट एज आई एम, right? So she has an inherent bias, and then most people would not give me feedback because they don't want to disappoint me. But कोई यहाँ पे ऐसा है जो मुझे feedback दे रहा है, और जब मैंने एक बार डिफेंसिव होकर उसको इंटरप्ट कर दिया, वो इंसान मुझे शायद अगली बार फीडबैक देने के पहले 2 बार सोचेगा. I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. And so when somebody is sharing feedback with you, listen. Don't filter. पूरी बात आप सुन लो. उसने 10 चीज बोली, 10 चीज सुन लो. That's the first step. In the second step, that's filter. That's your reflection after the feedback, where you look back and think, okay, this person has told me these 10 things. How many of those things are relevant? And you maybe figure out that only 3 out of those 10 things were relevant. So be it. That's the filtering process. But don't filter while you're listening. Filtering feedback is a process that comes after listening to feedback. Right? Is that clear? And finally is action, acting on the feedback. These were 12 rules, 13th and final rule, the 13th and final rule. And if you have no questions further, I will stop this stream right here, and we might meet again in the near future. But this is my final couple of minutes for you. And it's this: do it and then go a step further. Do it and then go a step further. Most people do just what is required to be done. Requirement पूरी हो गई क्या? Tick 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 लग गया, done. I'm done. Most people do what is required to be done. What I want you to do henceforth is do what's supposed to be done. And बहुत बार उसमें बहुत फर्क नहीं होता. जो रिक्वायरमेंट होती है, और आप अगर थोड़ा भी उससे ज्यादा कोई चीज कर देते हो, तो आपका जो वो एक्स्ट्रा स्टेप है वो आपको ऑटोमेटिकली टॉप 5% कैटेगरी में डाल देता है, बिकॉज 95% लोग तो वो स्टेप लेते ही नहीं है. सर एक ही स्टेप तो और है, हल्का सा ही तो और काम है, 15 मिनट का ही तो और एफर्ट लगेगा, लेकिन लोग वो करने को तैयार नहीं है. तो जब आप करते हो कंसिस्टेंटली 1 स्टेप more than what was just required to be done, you create your personal brand. So this was the 13th and final rule. Do it and take a step further. वो आपको 15 मिनट शायद एक्स्ट्रा लेगा, शायद दिन का आधा घंटा एक्स्ट्रा, बट वो दिन का आधा घंटा एक्स्ट्रा over the course of a few months or a couple of years takes you a completely different place, and takes all those people who've been doing the bare minimum at a different place. The filter point was listen to the feedback, do not interrupt. Once you're done listening, then in your own private space, filter the feedback to see what's relevant and what's not, and then act on the feedback. Right? So these are the 13 rules of building your personal brand at work. How did you like this stream? Write in the chat and let me know. If you're watching this as a recorded version later on, write in the comments, let me know. And if it would really help me if you share this stream with one of your friends, just one of your friends who you think might benefit from this. Because I used to do some social media a while back, but in the last many months, a couple of years in fact, I've been very busy with work across the world, working with some of the greatest clients and having an absolutely blessed life doing what I love to do, that I have ignored social media and ignored talking to people directly like I'm doing right now. So if you share it, if you share it with your friends, and if you share in chat how you enjoyed this session, that will help me feel more encouraged to do this more often. And of course, if you ever have feedback or comments about what topics you'd like to hear from me going forward or whatever it is, I'd be more than happy to address them. Sir Tobias Eldridge is asking, which book are you on currently? Would you say reading or writing? If it's reading, I'm reading Think Again by Adam Grant. And if it's writing, I've just published this book, Don't Shut Up. It's on Amazon. And you can check it out there. So because it's just published and we're still in the process of getting it out there in the hands of people who ordered it and who are ordering it right now, I am not working on any other book presently, but I might sometime in the near future. Thanks for that question. And Dhruv, thank you for being here. Explora, thank you for your wonderful comments. Thanks everyone for sticking around. Any questions, comments, let me know. Reach out to me on any social media about any challenges, interviews, questions that you have coming forward. I'll be more than happy to answer. Bye-bye.